happening lately where I'll start the stream, which I already have, and then point to the camera and we can all wave and welcome our viewing people. Welcome. Hello, hello. For some people who can't make it in VR, and other people who can't make it at this time, and other people that are randomly discovering us on YouTube and other social media places, this kind of transparency seems to be really helpful. And so thank you in advance for your vulnerability, although we are masked, um, to model what it can look like to be in genuine relationship with each other and playful also. So for those of you who have been
I
here
may
before,
be a little spaced out.
yeah, okay, no
I did
worries.
not get on VR with the intention of that happening.
Oh yeah, wow. For those of you who have been to this circle before, does somebody want to describe the overall format? How do we do our weekly community builder meetups?
I got us.
Okay.
So we go around the circle and talk about, basically everyone brings up a norm, that being just some, not really sure the best way to put it, just a norm, a thing that happens, a thing that you do. Stuff
Okay.
like that. Then we go around again and just talk about something that's been bothering us in, managing communities, managing social spaces.
Yeah.
Share some grievance, try not to make it personal to anything. And it's not, you're not asking for advice, just understanding. We sometimes reflect back on trying to see them and see what they're talking about and reflect back what they said in their own words. Then we'll go on a little world hop and talk about how the different worlds we visit positively and negatively impact community and how they will help grow and destroy those who come there in some way.
It's very, very
Not the most
impressive.
eloquent way to put it, but
Okay, yeah. There's one final chapter. Does anybody know what the last chapter is? To our 2-hour event
game.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for raising your hand, Jay. And Theo, yes, appreciation game.
Sorry
So
about that, Jay.
it's okay. It's all good.
No, it's fine.
So what we're doing here is we're starting acknowledging that as our menu. And partly that's because the invitation is pay attention to each other and listen deeply, knowing that you get to offer a gift at the very end to one person in this circle to say, hey, thanks for helping me grow in whatever way it was. Even, I joke about this, but this has happened in the group before. Sometimes appreciations are, thanks for talking so much. I had no words tonight, but it was soothing to follow what you were saying. Or sometimes
that one.
Yeah. Sometimes people say, thanks for talking so much. It was super irritating, but then I realized what I was really irritated about, and I'm going to deal with that now. And it made me have to face what I was avoiding. So it can be also very silly or sweet. Just, I like your avatar is a very default one that people say. Ideally, try to give a detail of what you actually like about it, what moves you, so that it's not kind of just phoning it in a little bit. But, we all have our different ways to say thank you. So let's start with norms. And does anybody have a way to describe what are norms? Why do we talk about norms? Every time. Yeah, Jay.
Well, as I understand it, norms are the values and that we try to practice pretty actively. We will actually maybe generally list them out, go around and see. Try to either I think there is a list on the Discord somewhere that has that has the values we try to exercise when we come here.
Yeah, lovely, Jay. Thank
that's
you.
how I understand it.
Yeah, so we're Bridgemakers is about building bridges, right? And human beings are social creatures, so we're always building bridges with each other all the time. I'm not, this group isn't like teaching you anything like completely brand new. But it is about making what's unconscious conscious. And so we talk about norms because norms are what happen unconsciously. So an example of this was, if you both will let me use this moment, and sorry if it's awkward, but this is what we're doing all the time. So I asked a question, Jay raised their hand, Theo answered. I said, thank you for raising your hand. Theo recognized that correction, which was just a gentle, like, yeah, that's a norm. Especially when we have a bigger group, raising hands is a norm we do so we can make sure to not talk over each other. It's smaller today. It's harder to catch when people are raising hands when you're on desktop. So you have to be scanning a lot more. And norms are how we take care of ourselves and each other, and they change. They're not always the same recipe every week. There are some ones that have turned more into guidelines or rules, but there are other ones that come and go. Like there are sometimes we have groups where everybody is emojiing constantly. And then there are some times when no emojis come out of anybody except me for like 3 weeks in a row. So that's a norm and it moves in and out. And if we said, you must use emojis, then that would be weird, right? Now we're the emoji cult. But we get to actually get conscious for a moment of what makes a good group, what makes a group that makes you want to come back and feel like you belong there. And we have our little list. If you point at my head or Carl's head or Theo's head, you can look at the group behind us. And in the rules section, there's some different kind of random things written, but they are not random. They are things that have come from building these groups. And you can read one of those lines if you don't know what you want to name as a norm. And some of the norms that we have and we say every week aren't on that list, like the emoji thing. So that being said, that's my preamble to this whole thing. Who would like to start with one norm that makes a good community group, a circle, this moment work well? Yeah, welcome.
I actually have something I've been thinking about a lot recently that really applies here, and it's very easy to sort of derealize in virtual reality, and I think the norm is just seeing through people's avatars, seeing that there's a person behind that, seeing, how they must be thinking about things. Like, it's easy to, like, look over there and be like, oh, that's a silly little bat. But no, there's a person just like all of us behind that. There's remembering the human in more of a in the moment way. I just call it seeing through the avatar. Something I try and do a lot, but I really try and practice here because it's very easy not to, and then you lose that human respect for people a little bit, even if subconsciously.
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
It's a bit more of a niche one, but...
No, it's true. And I think there's something about you and how you wear your avatar and you show up embodied that really brings that human forward. There's a lot of fluidity, and even you're not
I try and
just
present myself.
And you're also, there's a kindness in how you are. I don't know if you think of it this way, but a lot of people sit in VR suspended in air, as illustrated by Carl here. And you actually have something that allows our brains to make sense of you being suspended in air. And so there's a way that you're bridging with us.
It makes sense of basically everything.
Yeah. So you're offering us a lot of your presence. And that is a modeling for us how to be here as much as we can be, even if we're on mobile. Sometimes people come here on mobile.
It creates immersion for others more than it creates immersion for myself.
Exactly.
Oftentimes the jank parts of the system and the ways it doesn't work don't really contribute to my immersion, but they somehow make me seem more human to others. And so I'll always use it because I'm on my stuff.
It's a bridge. It's a bridge. So thank you. That's a beautiful norm. Who would like to go next? Let's go in a circle. So Chosen or Theo. What's a norm that we can practice or you enjoy about communities?
Well, if So a norm that I set, that I just practiced just now as well, and I practice a lot with vulnerability and comfortability of the compassion of another individual that we share these conversations and moments together, is setting your status to orange so that that there's a sort of privacy of this compassion or this kindness, and expanding the moment together, so that we become more vulnerable, and hold more compassion, joy, love, and kindness for one another.
Yeah. There's a paradox in our bridge makers. We can't say everything you say here will be confidential. I would caution you about any community that said that in these apps with all the potential video recordings happening. Like, that's an unsafe norm to set up for people. And so we are uber transparent. We record everything and we stream a lot of it. And that way, it allows both directions. It allows you to have the constant practice of everything I'm saying could be viewed by somebody out there. And so I'm going to practice with integrity how I talk about my world and myself. And then also, we want you on orange because if you do have a friend who's trying to join, we want you to know they're coming and go meet them at the entrance and let them know what you're experiencing here and see if they want to join. So it's not red. People can join and sometimes do midway, but it's about the practice of bridging and making sure that people who just might be joining
I
on
went
their
on
friends.
red because I got 7 requests in the first 5 minutes of joining here.
Wow. That's a lot of
Oh, yeah, you
requests.
came
I'm
right
too
from the
popular.
stage.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
I came right. I literally jumped
I
off the
have 2 of
stage in
them.
front of 50 people.
two
and
of
then
them.
joined.
That's so funny. I think people have just learned for me that when I'm in VR, I'm at a Bridgemakers event, so they don't even invite me anymore. But I think that there's something important about you are choosing to be here, and you're going to be requested. You're going to be needed elsewhere, and making a conscious decision on what to do with that hunger from people is what we're asking for because we're building a bubble right now. And when people leave the bubble early, it does kind of pop the bubble a little bit. So, along with that, there's a norm of say hello, say goodbye, and recognize that even if you don't feel like you've made an impact, you have, and leaving early makes an impact too. Try to be here if you can. And let us know if you have to leave, why you have to leave, if you can. And if you don't want to, that's okay too. But this is a way where
Well,
we're
see,
actually
I'm gonna
practicing
say
community.
you stole the norm. I was just thinking I was
No.
gonna use say hello, goodbye as a quick way to say I have been kind of sneezy, sniffly, and wearing the headsets actually
Not
got
good
my
for
nose
you.
fully clogged
Yeah,
most
yeah.
of the time I've been on here.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna switch over to desktop real quick and be right
Good.
back.
Yeah, that's lovely. And this is who was saying the thing about values? Was that you, Jay? Go ahead,
I
Carl.
think so.
I was just going to say that
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
gonna get ready.
where the values and the norms connect, right? So Carl is saying that consciously to us, and we have a human first value. I would actually be kind of annoyed with Carl if he stayed in here and his body was getting worse and he didn't just do something like that to correct for it, right? So,
Yeah.
yay, Carl.
So be right back.
Go away and see you soon. All right. What's another norm? Just going to say norm so many times you're never going to forget the word.
Gotcha.
Jay.
Yes. Well, I think, well, something that matters to me a lot is candor. It's like, the ability to actually be open about things that other people might not be comfortable with, but actually are crucial to hear. It's like, when I talked about that friend, I talked with, she said something that I thought was, basically, I thought she was telling me she was sick of hearing me repeat myself, but she actually meant something completely different from what I said, and I was really nervous about saying, listen, can we talk about this further? I found that hard to take. But yes, and by the way, for the record, I actually did think that was funny when I raised my hand, but you answered the question. I thought, okay, well, but about the values, or I forgot, whatever it was. No, I actually find that kind of thing funny. But anyway, yeah, but yes. So I yeah, it meant a lot when she actually said, "Oh no, that's not at all what I meant." And I'm glad you. And she was really appreciative that I brought that to her attention. She said, "I'd really like to learn, how to communicate better." So that, like, I was trembling. I was about to faint when I asked that question because I had to go take a walk, pace around in circles. But that's why I do need to have these kinds of conversations that are uncomfortable, so that I can have deeper relationships. That matters more than any kind of success. Like, that has to actually come before success. Does that make sense? I know that's kind of a mouthful.
No. So what I hear you saying is
the norm.
Let's tell the truth. Yeah. Carl brought food. Thank you, Carl. That watermelon is so intensely red and non-translucent for your very translucent body. So maybe it'll just rest inside your chest if you do eat it. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, perfect timing, Carl. What is your norm to contribute? And then Chosen looks like AFK, but
hello and goodbye didn't count. Okay.
Nope. Beat you to
it. Well, I think in some ways, in the broad ways we've been referring to other ones, it's kind of been touched on, but it's always been a big thing for me is like just accountability, like being able to, however you phrase it, call each other in, call each other out respectfully. If you mess up, own up to it. If you hear somebody make a mistake, let them know.
Yeah.
Do better.
Yeah. And, I feel still a kind of fright response in my body when I hear the word accountable, even when it comes out of my own mouth, to be honest, because that word is usually used as a foghorn for some kind of conflict and feeling like somebody's coming out of the blue and being like, you did wrong. And it feels that loud, kind of like what you were saying, Jay, when you got that feedback. The first thing you heard was maybe more primal lizard brain of like, oh no, I'm doing what I'm so scared of doing. And then you had the stamina, partly because you're practicing with us. Oh, bye, Chosen. You had the stamina
They may have crashed a while ago.
Yeah, I wondered. Yeah. You had the stamina to kind of hold in that and say, what's my clarifying question? How can I understand this better? And what's my value? Curious Kibble's group has a value of grit. And I don't think that's ever going to be a Bridgemaker's value, but I could be wrong. I value it personally. I don't necessarily want to impose that on a group. And I think there is grit in what you were practicing there. And it's the grit to grit your teeth and say, tell me more. And try to get more details, even though I'm squirming inside. This is hard.
Yeah.
And so, accountability is the process of, appreciation and accountability are actually pretty related to each other, to me at least, because appreciation is just taking measure and accountability is acknowledging measure and mismatch. So, that's a really good one. I don't think we've talked about that super clearly many times. I will give us another norm because we're getting a lot of variety today and we do have some we need to mention. So, refraining from substances as much as possible when you come to Bridgemakers, treating this as a professional space, which is kind of a weird thing to say because it's also an incredibly human space. But we're trying to put the human back in professional, basically. And the practice of that is acknowledging that, part of respecting each other is trying to be as conscious and present to listen and be with each other. And when we're on substances, it skews not just our lens, even if it feels better temporarily, It also skews the group lens and the group's ability to like really listen to each other.
Not
So
only just the lens, but the connections to that person
yeah,
can feel a bit distant. I had a bit of that experience recently, and I met back with that person the next day, making sure that we had moments together to actually practice into sobriety and, being in the presence of each other rather than I was losing out on the presence of our conversation from time to time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Making sure to come here with the readiness to tell the truth and learn and try to be as available as possible to hear and show up for each other is important. Um, so there's that. I'm trying to think if there were any others that are important that we need to name.
I kind of thought of this new one that was kind of interesting because, like, there's like this interesting dynamic when somebody shares a lot. Sometimes it takes out of the words of what someone else would say, and having more
Mm,
patience to allow everyone to have their piece of the pie by just sort of giving enough for your perspective so that
mm.
everything can be shared with empathy.
Yeah, that's better and better the way you're saying that. We've talked about that one before. Yeah, that to some degree we're doing this collective scrying here, in witchy talk. We're resonating in with each other and sensing what we sense and learning how to rhythm together. And every circle is that practice. And so it can feel really activating to say, "Oh, I can see a mile ahead and I want to travel that whole mile and tell you everything I see." And recognize, and this is an important one for me that I get to keep practicing, is sometimes we got to let other people lead. We got to let other people say the things we haven't said yet, and it can feel really magical to slow down and just listen. So, with that being said, I can't remember if there's a norm I'm missing, but we'll bring it up if we think of it. So, let's jump into pain points and yeah, share one thing that is aching, pinching, poking.
Oh, RSVP as well.
Oh, thank you. Good memory. Yeah. RSVPing
Yeah,
is a way to
good
take
one,
care of the
Daryl.
community. Yeah. And it's a way to acknowledge that there's value here and it's not just a convenience event, that you're coming here on purpose to practice you. So thank you for that. So pain
I have
points.
it set to automatically RSVP me for the next one the moment it's created
Lovely.
because I think of it as my default to come, and then if something happens, I will un-RSVP
There you go.
because
Yeah.
this has become like I'm very much trying to make this a routine for me because
It's a
I
rhythm.
don't have much of that in my life.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to be kind of the heartbeat of bridge makers. If we have no other events, I hope that we keep having this one because it's that space to come and have a semi-structured moment to be honest and playful and undone at the same time. And that's a weird combination of things. But we make it work. And I appreciate how, at least for my Friday evenings, I always walk away from these moments going, I feel like there was more than I came with. And I feel like we all walked away many times with a sense of more, a fullness, a gratitude, an awe. We survived a journey together, and every time is an adventure. So, yeah, that's really lovely to hear, Valka. Sometimes just having one thing we commit to and is a heartbeat in our life can help all our other rhythms kind of tune in and build. So, yeah. So, what is
Something
your
that I think,
go ahead?
little add-on that I think only you will properly understand here is that it does a good job of replacing another rhythm I had in my life before I found
Exactly.
Bridgemakers that was
Yeah.
removed.
And bridge
You
makers,
know the one I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah. We so for context for people without giving too much away, Valka and I both shared a similar group at different times. that has very strong rituals and routines that kind of can take over one's consciousness and life. And especially when that relationship ends in a very ick way, which many, many, many people in this group have that kind of closing. Unfortunately, it is it can be really, really deeply gut wrenchingly bizarre. Like there's this vacuum in every moment for days and weeks and months. Where I felt personally like I wasn't where I was supposed to be, or I was off the path I thought I was supposed to, it really creates an existential storm sometimes. So this group, Bridgemakers, partly on a personal level, was created as a space for landing from a group like that. That we don't know how far we fall down the rabbit hole until we get kicked out of it all of a sudden or something, and then it's a wretched awakening, and having a landing spot to say real things, sometimes hard things, even just for a few minutes once a week, can be everything. So yeah, there's a reason this is here, and there's a lot of different kinds of groups that unfortunately expel in very unconscious ways because they don't know how to be better and they're not interested. It's working for the leadership the way it's set up. But I hope that we keep being a community that has flexibility there and invites everybody to participate in a process of learning with us. So yeah, we don't world hop as much as a lot of groups, but we soul hop. So that being said, I am curious about using part of our time tonight to have a conversation about a potential supplemental event. I say, it's so important we have this rhythm every week. And then I'm like, and we might replace it once a month with something else. And I want to check in.
Rhythm?
Yeah, it is a rhythm. It would still be the same time, same amount of hours, whatever. But at some point, I'd like to share this developing concept that may have a home as 1 out of 4 community builder meetups. It would take the place of one of those, and it might not have a home in this group cycle. So it might need to live somewhere else. I'm just having to make sure to set healthy boundaries for me and not overpromising new rhythms that I can't sustain. So we might have to tuck it in this spot for a while, even if we collectively decide we don't want to do that long term. And so I don't want to leave you on a cliffhanger, but I'm happy to share more about that. And I also feel like I've been talking for a long time, so I really would love for us to jump into pain points for a little bit first, and then maybe at the end
I can start us off there if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it.
I have something fresh in the mind. It's less of a specific pain point and more of just something I've been starting to grapple with more and more. I'm growing a lot in the scene of just VR chat, like, look at the club scene. I make worlds with a ton of audio link for parties and that. And I have a very unique style I bring to the table, so many people are very interested in what I do. Like I said, I just joined here after ending up. Basically, I saw someone in an instance of my older audio link world that was like 40 people in it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this group before. I join it, and there's a ton of people having a blast, and I like introduce myself to the owner, and they're like all complimenting my world and all that. Like everything goes great. Then their DJ doesn't show up, and so I do a 45-minute set just before joining here. It's like it's all so great, but it's so fast. And it's scary because there is so much drama inherent in VR chat that I try and avoid. And so there's just this specific scene like this with a ton of different groups is an absolute minefield. And so every time I get involved in these places, I end up like hearing some things. Like I joined this other group that I've been quite involved in recently, and I was talking to one of the people there, and they start talking about this massive drama that's happening between some world creator friends of mine And then there's another drama going on with another one of the clubs. It's very public. I can definitely name it. There's stuff going on at Waterwolf that I don't know about. And I just feel like I'm running through a minefield through just trying to make a difference in this community and try and bring optimization and accessibility and these unique experiences to people. I have to run through this minefield of people too obsessed with themselves to see a bigger purpose, you know?
Wow.
And it gets to me sometimes. I get so anxious that I feel like I need to distance myself from these groups, even though it's like the main purpose I have in my life.
Wow.
I'm doing my best. It's just so chaotic, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to deal with it forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was rich.
Yeah,
Thank you, Avolka. Who wants to try
I would say
I've got a
too.
lot in my head.
Yeah, I got some thoughts there. I would raise my hand, but I was too slow. And
Do you,
it's the emojis.
okay,
Or
so
my mouth came open.
you're going to do reflective listening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And yeah, and even though the elements of it are different, like to me that feels very similar to just, with myself being part of a community that in and of ourselves is pretty, we have our things, but it's been a very chill community. But overall, the climate of VR chat is exactly that tumultuous, kind of scary.
It's everywhere.
Like people supposedly doing all the craziest things, and it's like wanting to be like loving that world, wanting to be a part of that world, and help it as much as you can, while also staying away from all that sticky, all those cans of worms, as a phrase I've been using a lot the last couple of days, and just get what you need out of it without, it's a very, feels like you're walking on thin ice all the time, or like if you open the wrong door, you're gonna, stumble into something you had no desire to even be part of. You just want to, like in your case, you just want to play your music and make cool worlds and show people how to do it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely, Carl. Do you want to? So,
Thank
a
you.
key piece to reflective listening is following it with a question. Something like,
Yeah,
did I get
yeah.
that? Did I hear you? Is there more? So that's a way to
Right,
make
yeah,
sure
and
that
that's that last one there is the bit that I think kind of felt hanging in there. Is there more there? Would you say that is not being felt?
You got me down. There's always going to be more with this. It's always goes deeper.
Yeah.
I said all that I can process at the moment, and you reflected on everything that I'm managing to process.
Lovely.
It's an endless. It's a lot. The word process is being used a lot here because it is an endless process of just
It is. Yeah.
people fighting and trying to. Everyone has the same wants. Everyone has the same goals. I can tell that, but at the moment someone tries to do it
There's rarely
differently.
bad guys, in my experience.
It's definitely a few, but you'd think a community so dedicated to love would actually come together and just get rid of the Trump supporters, but nope.
Well,
yeah, that's as much as I do try to hold that value myself that I stated, like that is a line in the sand that I myself have kind of pretty, even somewhat upsettingly, but like, I can't deny it either, that like that's something that you first made the statement and I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, everybody's got their perspectives. And then you put that one out and I'm like, oh, yep, I'm pretty much so. As much as I'll have the conversation with anybody still, it's very upsetting and a polarized time.
it's a very polarized time. Yeah. And I want to, this is a moment where we get to do a little bridging here because, I can acknowledge that there are challenges in the paradox of tolerating intolerance. And for the political realms, we don't do away with politics and bridge makers entirely. We do have a politics thread in our bridge shakers area. And we've had some important conversations happening there slowly, right? There's a time limit on it or a time delay on sharing there. So that is flow mode. Thank you. To help us be thoughtful first about how we're going to share what we want to share. We have had people leave this community with the conviction and belief that if somebody is Republican or a Trump supporter or whatever, they should be immediately evicted from our community. Because of the nature of what the name Bridge Makers mean, I can't get behind that. I hear it, and I think that there's a case by case moment on how much as a community we can absorb with these pieces. But I think that my hope for Bridge Makers is that we are a meeting place to share other perspectives with each other and give that challenging to each other when our beliefs have turned excluding. And if we can't do that in spaces of privilege like this, I don't know where we're ever going to have those conversations. So, while I really respect that there's a saturation point encountering people that are almost many times needing the polarity and looking for it and tugging and being almost incendiary, someday more clever people or bigger research than I've seen will probably identify that some percentile of that kind of challenging and ill repute kind of language has a place in community systems as an immunity function and as a learning new words for old things to find ways to reach each other, even when we want to banish each other to Mars or farther on. So yeah, so thank you for naming it. The drama that you're talking about that I've sensed and seen and had many times reported directly to me in VR chat has that kind of political thread through it. But I would say that's like a small group of those worms. I think there's much bigger pieces that come up in people. And when we live in a world that is incredibly toxic positive and does not allow these conversations to happen at work, and many times our home environments are not equipped to prioritize and sit down and have long talks to learn about each other and to see it without attaching or trying to change each other's mind, then all of that like old stuff spills in through us in places where we're less inhibited and we have more safety to talk behind masks. And when that gets activated, which is fun, also the other stuff gets activated and it starts to come out and spin. And you're sometimes reflective listening. This is just a side note as somebody that's been practicing it for a long time. One way to pay attention when people are talking is listen for tones of voices and keywords that are spoken sometimes multiple times. And so a key word that I heard you say, Avalka, was minefield. And what's funny about my brain is, or weird, is that I spell things in my brain multiple ways if they have multiple spellings. And so when I heard minefield, I heard like minesweeper minefield, but I also heard minefield. A whole bunch of people trying to claim their space and claim what is theirs and not theirs, and the othering that comes from a minefield. Yeah. And so it may appear that there's a possibility of building trusting relationships, but then it turns into a minefield. What's mine? That's mine. What are you doing? And so that's just another way to think about reflective listening. Sometimes when I have had different groups, I'll have the reflective listening just be one word. Every single person who heard that says one word that stood out to them that they heard. And that's, instead of repeating a story back, that's it's unique. Just this kind of chorus of words to kind of meditate on. So yeah, that's just another tip on doing this. But who would like to go next?
We could try and keep with, I keep trying to do a thing where like when you and it's not like a hard, fast rule ever, of course, but you reflect, and then you go, and then somebody reflects you, and then they go, and then it's kind of like the appreciation game bouncing around. I remember or maybe it was Venia, but somebody had brought up a point of why it wasn't like there was a drawback that I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it depends on the size of the group. Usually, when you're linking things more clearly like that, those work better with bigger groups. When there's too much structure with small groups, it can feel like we're getting way too involved in uh, doing the thing we saw for the exercise equipment, in the manual, as opposed to just like
Right.
seeing how we want to pick
Yeah.
it up
Then
or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And I definitely mean it very loosely. Like,
Yeah.
if there is that kind of gap of no hand raise or something, then
Yeah.
I'm fine with going next and
Okay.
doing that sort of pattern.
Yeah, we
but
can do that.
otherwise, there's no
Sure.
A hand was
obligation.
raised.
I saw
No, I
Theo.
was,
Okay.
yeah, I was just gonna mention to Carl because you didn't remember when it was. It was last Friday's meter build up when we tried
Yeah,
doing
I've
that
tried
system.
I've tried it a kind of a few times loosely as well. So
Nice.
it's not like trying to set it as a standard or anything. But
Yeah.
it's
No, I
nice.
like that. I think it does plug in well because we are doing the kind of everybody's reflecting back. So that does create a flow. But yeah, and we can switch back and forth. So
But yeah,
Theo,
if
would
there
you?
was a hand, I am
Oh
eager to
no,
hear
Theo was
anyone
just
else do it.
commenting on when it was. So yeah, why don't you go, Carl, with your watermelon over there,
All right.
keeping you company?
Yeah, I forgot to put that over there. It's chilling with me.
It looks very juicy.
Yeah, and
very red
I've been pretty kind of coasting, like I'd say, conflict community woe wise. I mean, I've had some events, but nothing that's too like taxing or bothersome, I'd say. Uh, More so just the physicality, like having allergy, kind of like flu-like symptoms early in the week. Snotty nose. I'm trying to push through the work week and still wanting to feel social in a way, but not really doing it until this last couple of days as I'm feeling a little better, kind of pulling myself out of it. And um, in a way though, that I feel like that is kind of putting a period on a period that I was in of a little bit of detachment, maybe kind of getting a little more, just the plugging back in a little more visibly than I had been.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah.
Who would like to reflect Carl back? Theo, go for it.
So, something I'd like to ask, did you feel like guilty or shameful about not being or feeling or being so detached from these experiences or these events?
I would say in to a slight degree where it's just like that kind of missed connection. I'm not one to really dwell on things, so like if there is, like I would have. I mean, just to I'll give a real specific example. Like there was maybe a few day period where we had some of our maybe applicant tickets open that sat for a few more days, and I had seen them at one point and been like, ooh, on like my next break at work or something, I should paste over the questions and do that. But and then when I didn't do it, it's like, oh dang it, and then I kind of move on, and then somebody gets to it. So it's I would have, if it sat a day or more, and then I was the one that gets to it, I would have maybe addressed it a little more directly in my mind and been like, oh, real regretful that this sat for a couple days. That's something we don't want to see happen. But then just kind of pick it up from there, though. I don't really live with regret much at all. I just try to do better and learn from anything that I wasn't happy with. So.
But it is a missed opportunity, and you would have enjoyed that space to hold a very nurturing growth or experience out to someone else with the work put in, because that's something you do talk a lot about, that your work is always your joy, and that always brings you close to everyone from events and or communities you're a part of, and so it enriches you more. But when that opportunity isn't there, it makes you feel lost.
Well, and then, yeah, not to get too into the specific example there, but there's also a other side of that coin too, where there was an element where I was wanting to see the other people that were doing that task kind of getting a little more, like, it's very, I love to see somebody else get to a ticket before me, just because the lazy aspect of it, of like, yeah, someone else is doing it, but also like seeing other people engage is kind of the whole thing. Not so much me having to be the facilitator, as I like helping people, like we're doing here in a broad way, like helping people learn to facilitate and then just watching them go. So, uh, when I had felt a somewhat of a lack of it, I had expressed maybe a few weeks ago where it felt like I was the main one doing it. So even though there was some guilt of me going like, I meant to get to that a couple days ago, or yesterday when I saw it, next day when I see somebody else got to it, it's like, sweet, So
Yeah,
it's
so
a
there's joy.
doubly both feeling. So yeah.
There's joy, and then there's also uh, what I had said before, and then that feels reflective for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a little bit of the element of, just uh, wanting to kind of be aware of the whole the physical sickness kind of bringing me down to aligning with kind of where I was a little bit checked out mentally, and then being able to recover from both at the same time, maybe a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm also struck by, like, I was talking to a kind of a world-renowned author, different than I was talking about earlier. I've just been reconnecting with some people on community building and emergent community building, especially where there's no pull or draw, that the community grows faster than it is growing, and it's just about like nurturing what is there. And
Yeah.
he was asking, what was he asking me about? I was trying to describe what Discord is like. And I'm like, would you like to manage a community for free that can break out into conflict 24/7, 365 days a week, year and week, and not be paid to do that? And also, like, have that sense of demand on you at all times, even when you're sleeping. Especially in my case, when most of the conflicts that have happened in Bridgemakers have happened between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. my time. And so I definitely have a seize response in me when I wake up in the mornings to be like, okay, what blew up? And so, it was a perspective taking to recognize that your average physical reality community is going to have slow periods of time where the culture, the location, whatever, there are surges and there are recessions of it. But in virtual reality, because we have so many cultures and around the world people involved 24/7, that kind of rhythm is not as easy to even trust, right? And so then it's like, how do you prevent yourself from burning out? How do you recede and practice accountability with that receding, and also, like, make space for other people to recede, and ask them to recede at times. So with Bridgemakers, if you help with us, we ask you to take a break after 3 months. And then if you come back and you want to help more, we ask you to take a break after 9 months or 1 year. And it's a mandatory break. And so these are ways that we're trying to schedule that recession in for you and really make it a celebration and a release. So, and
I think I could comment there too, just that, like, that the helper one break, at least I was I'm sure you remember, like I asked a lot of questions about that. I
Yeah.
was kind of resistant. I was like, but
Mhm.
why do I gotta not do things
Yeah.
for a while?
Yeah.
I can and for me, a lot of it was that like I, you know, am somewhat stubborn, maybe hard in some ways, hard to teach if I already think I know what you're talking about. So
Mhm.
when it comes to that idea of like I figured like I'll tell you when I'm burnt out, you know, but
Mhm.
kind of
But you
having
don't.
that
Yeah.
and but even then, and yeah, I'm still learning that lesson for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the kind of
Mhm.
core of this pain point, really.
Yeah.
But I think that having what I did learn from it with the helper one and the that walkabout and shedding the roles I had at that time and not picking up the exact same roles when I came back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, that kind of gives in a way, and again, I didn't exactly, I had people reaching out to me, so that tells me I didn't, properly put, make sure people were aware of where I was at. But as far as, I, to a degree, though, felt that that was an okay thing to do, to pull back to a degree, and
Mhm.
wasn't scared that like I was going to just lose the roles or anything like that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
understood that that was something that Bridge Makers was equipped to,
Mhm.
absorb and handle and talk about, and if it did become a problem, would call me on it, kind of thing.
Mm.
So
We had a game event today where one of the questions in this quiz, for those of you who are there, was something like something about broken bridges and like, what do you say about a bridge that broke? Um, and I think the answer that I picked, I definitely screenshotted a lot of those because there's some really interesting stuff. But one of the answers was, um, it wouldn't be a strong bridge if it didn't break sometimes.
I think
And
the question was, what is an excuse for a bridge to break? And then that was the answer.
the answer,
Yeah.
yeah.
wait, what would the excuse you give if your first bridge broke? I remember that context now,
That's
because I think
interesting.
my response was, it's my first one.
Okay, got it. So, I appreciate there's a soup kind of conversation we're having here where we're just recognizing this is something that's going to happen sometimes. We're going to fade out and not realize we faded out, and then we got to come back and try again and try to do that a little differently each time. But also there's some richness in what you shared about, trusting accountability and trusting that we would hold you accountable even if you didn't hold your own accountability. And that's the exchange. How consciously do we do those things? And is it accountability if people are holding us to it? So yeah, I appreciate the what I hear mostly that you're saying is you find yourself kind of naturally reemerging. And also your
Yeah.
body was ill in that process, and there's an awareness that probably had a layer in it you weren't even conscious of. So yeah, lovely. Well, with the semi tradition of what we're trying to do here, Theo, would you like to share next?
1 second. I think I'm gonna have to disappear. I've been trying to keep myself present, but I absolutely wasted myself this morning, and I don't think I can keep this headset on much longer.
Okay.
Crashing out. You just burned a lot of energy. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I didn't think
Yeah.
I was going to either, so I was not prepared. I need to stand
Yeah,
up.
burned a lot of energy
Ow.
unexpectedly, even more so.
Thank you for the company, though. I will try and be a bit more present next week.
Oh, come in, Avoka.
I'm
Thank
glad you
you.
had a good experience beforehand.
Mm,
Get some
yeah.
rest.
Yeah, that was. I need it. Thank you, though. Oh,
Take it easy, Avoka.
I'll do my best.
Hmm. So, and then there were four.
Mm-hmm.
Theo, would you like to go next?
Well, I'm curious, Jay, did you want to go? I saw you kind of squirming around a bit, kind of eager, or just moving a little bit.
No, this is just my way of keeping myself awake. Normally I sleep at this
Your
time, but I
mic
do like to
is-
stay up for them.
Your mic's kind of like messed up a little
Oh.
bit.
Is that Like a lot of cases, it only works if it's right next to my mouth. Is that better?
It has like a
Got
lot of
louder,
fuzzing
but yeah, quality's in the tank.
Hold on. Is that better? Like I had to turn off my fan.
Yes, much better.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Cleaned it up
Okay,
a
yeah,
fair
my
bit.
fan was directed at me. But no, that's just my way of keeping myself awake. You can go next. I was actually, yeah.
All good. Yeah, I was just checking in on you.
Hello. Game
Thank
Hawk.
you. Thank you.
What did
I
Game
think
Hawk
we also
join
have
on?
a new person. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Is that somebody's
Let me
friend?
go see what's
Want to go
up.
invite them?
Say we value making them find us, but also go grab them.
I mean, they found us, but then they were probably like, "That's a really small group." So,
Did you want to join the event that we're hosting?
I wonder if they're in
for
Bridgemakers. I don't recognize that username.
Even maybe Theo recognizes them.
I like VR chat.
Maybe not. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good effort.
Yeah. Thank you for trying.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess I can share my pain point then now. In a lot of interesting avenues today. Especially today was again just waking up at 6 in the morning. Mom saw a roach today, and she said it was in the cushion, so we had to take that outside today. And yeah, there's just a lot of paranoia. But something I would like to reflect as I go into this pain point. I was thinking that, and I had talked to you before about this, hey you, that I didn't feel like there was support around me, but I have been pointed out wrongly once I was talking to my teacher about this topic. And something interesting that I talked with Jay about this, this conversation with my mom having this paranoia with the bugs and doing all these projects that is hurting herself still because of her torn ligament and all these things. But what I recognized from the both of you, you asked, where are we from in this relationship to recognize into that? My teacher said, it required a question of why. And something I didn't necessarily notice before that he noticed to me is that bugs are a reflection of our psychology, and so they reflect sort of the nasty, dirty aspects of our mind that we're kind of avoiding. That's why most people react to bugs in a sort of very knee-jerk or very out of fear or out of, it ultimately, most people get really grossed out when they see a bug and they go and they want to kill it. But a lot of the times through my practice, I reflect and understand sometimes these things are important so that we can foster and grow to allow ourselves to be more patient with each other. And especially today, like I had a very, very, very intense moment. I was working on my yoga, and my mom, she's trying to trim her dog's her dog's nails. And she is still, my mom's dog is just, she doesn't want to do it. She's really scared and uncomfortable getting her nails trimmed. And my mom is just looking at me, looking at the dog, and she's what it almost looks like about to cry because she can't do anything right now. And she needs this to happen right now. And I'm over there doing yoga. And right as I finish, she's coming to me to almost complain. And I said, as I was done, I'm like, I'm here. It's okay. We can get this done. We do this together. Like, and even though it's still been very difficult, she still even tries to tie me down every time with the guilt of, what time did you wake up today? Because I know you were sleeping all day. And me recognizing and just saying, we don't have to do this right now. Like, to talk like this.
Oh.
Like, and as well as how much she worked today, and I respect that, I understand. But I said, let's just finish her nails so you can go to bed and rest.
Wow. Wow. That's vivid, Theo. Way to not be in the clouds. Mm. Who wants to try reflecting Theo back?
You can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what, from what I understand, so you're still struggling to assist your mother, but you're doing everything you can, but she, you don't see her showing any appreciation. Like she's, uh, like I'm not sure how old your mother is, but yeah, you like she has this very strong, very strong aversion to insects, and like she's imagining like insects and like the furniture, and you have to anytime she sees that you have to go through it and show her that there's like it's not infested or anything. Um, she like whenever she's having trouble doing something, she'd rather complain about it, and then you have to guide her towards, okay, let's just actually do this so we can move on to the next thing. Like I think I wasn't quite clear on the part about you. Like, is that correct? Did I hear that? Am I understanding that correctly?
So Jay, that is good reflection of what's happening in my experience, but that's actually my mother's pain point a bit because she has the burden of where her sanity is weighing her down, but my pain point is as I talked to my teacher about this, I'm weighing my sanity down as she's weighing herself down, trying to hold each other together so that nobody is just hurting each other through this process that we're building together. And also having now one thing you did reflect was the respect. It, of course, yes, respect and my boundaries. They aren't being met with my mother, and that is a very difficult line to understand and to procure my own space and my own way, my own identity when all the time I'm helping her all the time with hers and when she's in pain all the time and carrying all that pain. But I'm identifying and saying, no, we have to, I have to have my own, it's difficult, it's different, right? And I'm not you in a way that you're hurting, but I will always help you when you are hurting, but stop hurting me and not respecting me or not giving me space to have my own things that I do be me. Because I'm an adult now. I'm 26 living with, and you asked, she's 61. Very strong, independent woman that has been through my life for every single opportunity and challenge of all kinds. But we have to let go of things together, or she has to let go herself.
Wow. You're giving me goosebumps, Theo. Who are you? So there's some really beautiful and wise things that you said there. And this is a really important moment to notice, like, you reflected back, you felt partially reflected, you gave the correction, which, side note, ironically, there's a field overlap with you and your mom where there's missing boundaries. And when you shared the story, there was a field overlap of understanding your experience versus your mom's. So there's a mirror happening there in how Jay reflected that back, right? That your mom's pain is piercing through you and becoming the story. And that's really interesting to me. But also, Jay, do you want to try reflecting back what you heard again if you want to lean into this to that deeper layer that
Yes.
Theo. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so to revise what I said, you're trying to help your mother, but she isn't like she's she's sort of encroaching on your on the things you want to do, and like you're trying you're trying to do a few things for yourself, but it's like she she keeps like any time she has a problem, and like she's treating anything you want to do yourself like she's trying to treat like you do nothing for her, or you do the bare minimum. Is that correct? Like she's not like she expects, it doesn't matter how much you give to her, she expects more from you. Is that a more accurate way of describing what I'm hearing, or?
Very much so. There's, with my experiences with my own parents, especially with my father and my stepfather, I have noticed a large majority through the relationship of my stepfather where there's a divide when people do not have the connections of each other's words or what they're saying or who they are or anything that they are related to that makes their identity known and enjoyed and full of, that my mother does not notice anymore. Maybe it's hard to know. Maybe it's always just because of the work, and maybe it's always just because of the people she interacts with. She's a nurse practitioner, and she works with seeing lots of patients from childs to adults who are worse off than yes.
So Theo, I'm going to pause you there. You have an incredible gift for adding when people share, and you kind of keep adding layer by layer. And the question here was, did I get it? And you said yes.
Yeah,
And that
yes,
that is a
yes.
spot where you can just be like, yes, thank you, you got me.
Right.
And you were adding more pieces. I think you could have like a spiral teaching method someday where you can just keep going deeper and deeper layers. The one piece that I want to acknowledge here that maybe didn't come out so clearly, because there was a lot in those stories, but it feels important because we're talking about also a what I would call a vulnerable population, which is the creatures that we live with. And this isn't a black and white thing. I just want to validate that I heard you flag where that boundary of I need you to not treat me this way got more black and white for you. And you set a boundary again more strongly. And it sounds like maybe she yielded to it, but there's some exhaustion with having to set those boundaries with somebody who has been a caregiver to you in the middle of very high stress moments. And for that dog specifically, I've also had creatures that sound like they're getting murdered when they get their nails chopped. And I think it does hurt. I think it is a really stressful and scary experience. So you were totally on point to call that and be like, this is not just harm towards me, which I've asked us to do differently, but this is also harm towards this dog. And this is a next level of a boundary violation here. And I need us and you did that in such a loving way. Those words that you used are really important. I hope you go back and write those down if you haven't. They were really optimal. I'm with you. We're going to do this together. It doesn't have to be like that. And those are all very much relational bridging statements that keep giving an invitation to join differently instead of saying, hey, you're telling me I'm doing it wrong because I woke up late or whatever. And I'm going to tell you, we don't have to go that direction. That's a mind state. I'm setting a boundary. We need to move through this moment calmly. And you did that very loving. And I just want to honor that, but also recognize, like, when it comes to things like vulnerable creatures, I definitely have my own activation come up of going, yeah, set those boundaries like solidly. That does turn what was already very stressful for that creature into its own kind of trauma, because the emotional energy of her caregivers are using her as a sacrifice to some degree. She is now on the altar of discord, but not the online kind. So yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, and it's in the gray area of what risk or safety is, but I just want to really validate that. Good call. I learned from you. Set those like maybe ahead of time next time of saying, okay, we're going to do this, but I need us to both agree we're going to do this very calmly. And this isn't about us. This is about her need, but also her trauma, and we need to make space and just be with her. And if we're going to have any relating here, it needs to be loving and remembering that we're going to get through this moment, and that's it. Because what can happen when those cycles repeat is you can get all kinds of other behaviors happening through the canine to release that energy, and that can encroach on other areas where now mom's doing that in front of children, in front of you know, and whatever. So good caution that is a next level, and thank you for your compassion to call her in with such heart. And what I have to remember for myself when I do those kinds of interventions of like interrupting, making it a little more uncomfortable for a moment to set that boundary, is that I might have to do them 10 or 20 times before it really changes a pattern. And usually by the time I found the words that actually set the boundary, I'm just like, what? I found boundaries. Like, respect me right now. And I'm not necessarily zooming out and recognizing there's been 100 times that boundary didn't know to be set. It wasn't set. And that flood of tide is coming in this moment, and changing that tide takes a commitment to tell the truth and watch for any subtle changes or yield or recognition. Oh yeah, we've done this before. I'm going to back off. So I say that for you and for us, and also for myself too. Good God, you know, we're all going to hit these moments of going, this is not working and it's getting worse. And when the timing is true, I appreciate remembering that old dogs can learn new tricks, not to make your mom a dog. You know, like they do shift, they can shift, but the consistency of boundary setting sometimes takes us to the edge of our sanity over and over and over again. And it's hard, and it doesn't always work. And the if you can say those words to your mother when you're being somewhat like blamed, shamed, attacked, you're going to have a lot better time saying those words to other people too. This is kind of the ground where bridging there will help you bridge everywhere so much better, and it's the hardest place to bridge. So yeah, mostly it's a bow to how you handled that. I think somebody asked me last week in our community. I don't remember if anybody was here, but they said, "Hey, you, when was the last time you felt rage, and what did it look like?" Was anybody here around for that?
Yeah, that sounds familiar to me. I don't remember exactly the context it was.
It was interesting
Because you brought up the
police,
experience with the vagrant and the
yeah.
Is that a mean word? Should I not call people
a
vagrants?
little bit. Yeah, I would just call him a houseless man. But yeah, it was an interesting moment because I think the last semi confrontation I had with police, which sounds really extreme, but it is kind of that level of like I'm setting boundaries, and I make it more uncomfortable for them if they're going a harmful direction. So this is where emotions in the body can back up the words even more clearly. And my rage looks like a very clear, solid boundary setting that just makes people feel tired if they try to get around it. Like they don't want to learn what's behind that boundary. and so they yield because it's too much to be faced with somebody that is that clear and won't bend a lot when it comes to vulnerable beings being harmed. So, but also is not condemning. There's no like, I'm not going to retaliate and be like, well, I'm going to go get my police stick because you have yours. Like I'm not going to match their aggression, but I'm going to match their body language with a totally different pattern that will either make them go away or it will make them soften and yield to my container, because I'm not going to make a lot of space for, well, let's just harm him a little bit, let's rough him up and search him and whatever. And I was, that kind of solidness in the body tells a very different story than asking or requesting.
Well,
Especially,
and even
yeah.
on, it's just funny to me. It makes me think so much of, it's such a similar sentiment, but it's such a like different stakes, kind of even to compared to like Theo's thing with, parents and setting those kind of real important boundaries, living, helping somebody. But like when I talk to my family about like our dogs, our pets, it's like you're asking them. Stop asking them and tell them. Like they don't understand English. You just have to communicate through your body and
and
like there's
exactly.
a difference just in the base kind of posture, stance, the way
That's
you
true.
speak
That's
before
true.
any words you use.
Yeah. And I would say what works in that for me kind of as a reflection is that when people are in that so a key phrase to think about here is that the way you can see trauma in relationships is an over response or an under response to pressure. So somebody puts pressure up and says, and somebody's like, ah, and it's like, wait, was that an equal response? Or somebody puts up a boundary and people are like, oh, you hate me. So both of those are trauma responses, right? And that's a primal kind of limbic system over compensation response in our brains that doesn't know how to slow down and say, what's really happening right now? And so Jay, you're practicing that to some degree.
The grumpy gear.
Yeah, the grumpy gear that we've been learning about in civil discourse can take over. And so the body language to set the boundary has to be in alignment with the emotions and the words. And that takes practice. That does not happen perfectly every time, etc. But really looking for that place inside. And again, this is just me remembering my own learning here that it's a little bit like Gandalf or whatever in Lord of the Rings with the dragon. You shall not pass, Even if I fall to my death with you, you shall not pass. I will die on this hill. And it doesn't have to be that extreme, but that solidness of conviction is a profoundly powerful message. And when it comes to vulnerable beings, and in that case, Gandalf was protecting the elves or whoever, when there is a sacrifice of if you
all right, it was a Balrog and they were hobbits, okay?
Hobbits,
I'm not even a big Lord of the Rings fan.
You're like, I'm going to set a boundary here. Nice. Yeah. So recognizing that is a extreme response, but it was also matching the dragon that was there. And he did. Balrog. Thank you. The Balrog that was there.
Very different creatures.
Okay. Good education on lore. So what I'm looking for in these interactions is, when does the flexibility come? And can I embody a trusting place to be flexible? And how do I practice that in various forms? And so I can find what actually works for the person. Like some people need to have a boundary set and not have direct eye contact. Other people
Yeah.
need the boundary to be set before that moment of contention, and then a plan in place
Well,
for.
and I want to kind of just remember and highlight like how Theo had said that, I believe you said you were doing yoga and there was like a vital need to cut some dog fingernails or something, but you took a moment there to say like, I'm here. We'll get it taken care of. Like it's
No, and Theo
that's
did
And
great.
also,
exactly what you're
Yeah.
saying.
and also my boundary. Like I'm doing yoga.
You're
I have my
wonderful.
legs. I have my legs up against the wall. I'm on the
Yeah.
floor, looking
Yeah.
upside down.
Oh,
What do you
wow.
want me to
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Maybe, and yeah, that's a really good way to think about it, is like, what is the fantasy in the other person's mind of what's going to happen right now? And you did something that was really compassionate to move through that illusion to some degree and just say, here's my boundary here. My creature body is compromised. Please don't run this at me right now. And also, here's how I can be flexible to see if that model is also for you to be flexible. So mostly this is just an acknowledgement of like, way to name that, way to own that. And this is hard.
Uh-oh.
This
Okay.
Oh, I cut out there. Yeah. Want to just honor it and reinforce healthy
Yeah, you had a brief
boundaries.
interrupt, but you're good.
Yeah, good. Okay, so we are really deepening into it, and a lot of that's on me. So we only have a half hour left. Let's see here. So everybody's gone. What do we want
Jay
to do?
hasn't gone. No.
No, Jay, you haven't gone. I apologize. You've been so present. I feel like I know what you're gonna. Well, yeah. Okay. What would you like to share?
Oh,
What
shoot.
kind of share?
Shit, I forgot my. Okay. Oh, I mean, the main thing here that's been a bit of conflict is I'm thinking about. Can you hear? Is my microphone okay?
It's pretty good.
Yeah, we hear you.
Go for it.
Okay.
We'll tell you if it's.
Well, so I'm thinking. Okay, so
Oh,
I
hey,
really want
come on
to
in.
get.
Have a seat.
Oh.
We got Silent has arrived silently, which is what Silent does.
Okay.
Come on in.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I want to get. I'm thinking about changing jobs. I would really like to
Uh-oh.
find online work. Thing is, so I don't have a lot of experience like distinguishing legitimate job offers from frauds, and that's one thing. And the other thing is my
Other minefield.
experience. I've spent the last 6 years in retail. Yeah, and I like it is strangely really hard for me to work up the motivation to, get write a new resume, submit it, respond to a job offer. I just I'm just so lost on what exactly the process I'm supposed to take it is. I'm so I don't know how to ask for help on this because I don't know exactly. I'm afraid of making my own decisions. Yeah, it's just, this is just so unfamiliar territory for me. I could just easily be taken advantage of because I'm not good at turning, declining requests. It is really hard to, describe, but that's the gist of it. I want to get a different job, but I'm afraid that what I have right now is the best that it's ever going to get, and it is chipping away at my soul because it's retail. But does that all make sense?
Yeah,
Makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank
Trust me, I
you,
got a
Theo,
lot of,
for writing the you're orienting Silent. What we're doing. Silent's been to these groups before. Silent has their guitar ready to play for us. Their pain point, maybe. And Silent, part of what we're doing is maybe different than when you've been here before. Is we're practicing reflective listening with each other. So if you want to jump in and try that with what Jay shared, it's basically just saying what I heard you said. And if that feels too sudden for you, I can also take that one. It's up to you.
Oh, my point was just going to be that I did 7 years of retail, so I very much reflect with that point. It sucked.
Yeah. And Silent
And
has been
even just
buried
to
underground.
bounce it off of on this direction too, like I spent most of the last 20 years in like retail and service, and
Mm-hmm.
only recently I'm doing something that's not that and kind of getting into that. I experienced a lot of what you described. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I heard was there's a bit of loneliness and being scared and not knowing how to navigate any of it. It's like trying to figure out your own person that can make money and support yourself. That's a lot of strength, and not a lot of people know where to find it, but it's always from within is kind of the eye of the beholder that we always find within ourselves and others.
So beautiful, Theo. And my invitation is you went from reflecting to redirecting there a little bit. So considering that you really caught Jay's in pain, Jay's lonely, Jay's searching. And that's where that reflection can end many times, because it just allows it to be here instead of saying source the strength from inside. Jay is sourcing strength from us right now, and
Yeah.
it can be both directions. Yeah. So thank you, and I'm coaching you, and thank you for all the ways you're learning from my coaching. Yeah, Jay, and I think we're all reflecting a lot of empathy for that lostness you're feeling. I also heard the phrase, I'm afraid it's always going to be like this, and this is the best I can do. And I'm afraid of, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to ask for help for that. But I want to change this because it's eating my soul. And those are all really like emotionally dynamic, emotionally complex truths that that show me your soul is still alive. And that first step is saying, I'm scared, I don't know how to do this, and I need help. And you're doing that. And that's all this is for those moments when you share it's not okay right now and you're trying to make it more okay in your life. Thank you for using this space to tell the truth. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for listening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool to watch you over the weeks as you keep coming back. You actually even have a little bit more tone in your voice when you speak.
I was about to say, like, you just changed right there. I just noticed it.
Yeah, there's a shift. It's so interesting to me how quickly we believe somebody is kind of set in their personality and don't realize how much a lot of times we all are going to come across maybe more flat or more lost in the beginning because we've had so many echoes in the world that tell us that we're not enough. And so our voice starts to reflect that and get scratchy or just like trying to believe that we can breathe air again when we've been drowning so long. And as you land in your body, your voice is changing, and you're speaking with more of a melody to when you share. So just a little, a little echo for you there. Silent, would you like to jump in with a pain point? How is community building for you?
I didn't do any homework for this.
I know.
I'm a background NPC in this cutscene.
Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but this is the first half, which is bled into the second half, where we deepen into what's uncomfortable about being in community with each other, and not with each other all the time. Sometimes that happens, but what's hard to be in community, and we share that with each other without fixing it or changing it. Like the way you reflected that back to Jay was like 15 years or however many years you were in that, and then you buried yourself in the ground. That's a type of reflective listening. right? Of just the agony. So thank you. You're already participating as your NPC self.
Yeah, I'm just comedic relief.
You are.
Like, it's
You definitely
keep it
do
lighthearted.
the comedy. Yeah. So I wonder, unless people are really itching for it, if it's okay for our last 20 minutes here today, I'd like to give you a little more information on what I said earlier about how we might insert a different event in this time once a month. And then we can do an appreciation and just kind of check out and acknowledge each other. Does that sound okay? Anybody like, wow, I want to go to a world? Okay.
No, it seems all good. We've gotten very deep with
We
everything.
did go deeper. Yeah. So the event that I'm talking about is called a wisdom circle, and that's my name for something that I have been brewing and stewing and biting my my cheek on for many, many years. And this is a different kind of heartbeat for bridge makers. It's some mix between a town hall idea, which many times town halls in informal communities don't happen unless there's a problem, right? But this is more with the idea of a town hall proactively. But it's also a place for a system that we're building and putting in place, not just for our communities, but also looking at other communities in VR that are interested in trying this out, at least some pieces of it. And it's called the Returning Grace Path. When we are exited from a community, how do we get back into it if we want to? Most communities have no pathway for that. Once you are out, it's like the mafia or something. You are dead to us. You know, we unfriend you, block you, out you go. And recently, we had somebody approach Bridgemakers who rage quit on us probably about 9 months ago, and in the middle of a conflict, and they said, "Hey, I really fucked up here," and they were really direct and candid, and said, "I was really harmful to you, Heyo, and people in this group, and I'm sorry, and I want to know if it's okay for me to come back to some of your events, you know, and rejoin a bit." And so that was, you know, necessity and mother of invention. This process has been being designed for years and little bits of it tested, but we're getting the whole train put together, and it is quite a process. And the heartbeat of this returning grace process is having this wisdom circle where we are, as a community, coming together to talk about our community and how we're doing, and kind of a living report card. What are our values that are joining together and working, and what are our values that are clashing and burning some people out? And so it's a real talk time.
It's really interesting to me. Like, and you had kind of mentioned this before, and I don't know why I didn't really connect the things, but I know I had mentioned kind of briefly to you earlier about my, you know, things I'm dealing with in Ancients, and one of those being somebody trying to appeal a ban.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 4 years ago. Like,
yeah, exactly. So, you know, and
but
this
there
is
are
also
still community members though who were affected by that and
right.
have already said they would not like to see him return. So some sort of process or
Exactly.
actual
And so,
thing for that would be very
yes,
interesting.
the bridge, when somebody exits a community in a way that is explosive or after having done multiple harms, saying I'm sorry just doesn't cut it in this atmosphere. It just feels disingenuous. It's like, what were you doing the rest of the 4 years? You know, like it feels like I don't know that you are different or will hold different with us when you're back in an environment where you did harm. And so the wisdom circle is a time that we're proactively making space for our own check up, you know, where we're being a doctor to ourselves basically, and we're listening to our heart and saying, how are we doing? Are we doing some weird shit that we need to face? But it's also a place for somebody who is approaching to come back in, to join, even when they're not in the Discord or in our group anymore. They can join off of a friend or whatever and come to that circle and work on their return process, which includes quests, depending on how severe or how many times they've harmed. There are quests that they can be given to go out into the world many times and learn about themselves through other communities. There's worksheets that they can do to understand what the conflict was, learn how to make amends, because many times when it's a community conflict, there's harm that happened between individuals, there's harm that happened in small groups, and there can also be harm that happened like on the Discord server or shit talking the community to somebody else. So there's many kinds of harms that need to be repaired before a community can really not brace themselves when that person shows up. And I don't think this kind of event is going to be easy all the time, but I do choose that it's going to be meaningful and transformative. You know, someday, you know, if I could wave a magic wand and we really fine tune this, my hope would be that not just virtual communities, but communities in physical reality would practice something like this. How do we take the pain of what went wrong and apply new knowledge to it to grow wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge applied, right? So, wisdom circles will be our effort to look at the bridge from underneath, test it, say some hard
I
things to
see it
each other
kind of
at
as an
times.
extrapolation of like at the summit, it didn't always happen, but when there was a reason to, you would have kind of a section on I forget exactly what you even called it, like just storms, or like you would highlight that there
Yeah,
had been a
bridge
conflict
shakers.
and kind of call it
Right.
out. I
Exactly.
mean, specifically as a part of the summit, it had happened a few
Exactly.
times.
Yeah.
you know.
So we check the bridge. We check the bridge for what is our edges, which is kind of the negative side. What are the places where
Yeah,
we're kind
that's
of
the term I was looking for. Highlighting the
failing,
edges.
right? We had a goal. We said, "Hey, come to our bridge," and then people just walked off the edge, right? And we're like, "Whoops, we didn't quite get it there." And so once a month, we're also reporting on those kind of administrative conflict analyses that we're doing sometimes if that's happening. But this is not a PowerPoint. This would not happen in a theater world. This would happen in a space like this. It might actually be this world. It's kind of a perfect atmosphere for it, where it's about really learning how to get around the proverbial fire again and listen to each other and find a way to not listen to react, listen to respond, listen to learn. So the goal for these evenings would not be that we've made a lot of decisions. It would be that we all have something we're going to sit with when we walk away. And I don't think that we're big enough or active enough to do this like weekly. If we ever were going to do something like this weekly, it would be time sensitive to a big hard thing happening in the community, and or multiple people would be leading it, not just me. So I wouldn't be there every week, kind of thing. So this is what I can stomach to kind of start this implementation process. We're probably going to do a workshop on this soon to present this to any community leaders that are interested in seeing what pieces of this process could fit for their communities. What's the lowest lift? What are they curious about? And my design of it is hopefully that it's like chunks, that the more chunks you have, the better you are likely able to bring somebody back in and it go well. But having any chunks at all, minimum this wisdom circle idea is gonna get your community ready to have hard conversations with people who miss it, but still might not understand how to be different with each other. So that's my proposal, and I love having our weekly time, just the same routine. So I felt I actually kind of wanted to replace one of our street epistemologies with that, but since the summit is already replacing our street epistemology on 1 week, the guidance I got was to replace one of these. So are there any reflections on this idea or concerns about doing that? Or
I rudely
emojis?
voiced my thoughts while you were talking.
You did. Thank you, Carl. I'm glad to hear that. Sounds interesting. And I definitely saw some body language from Silent over here that know you've been around the block for a long time, dealt with a lot of conflict, and so it's good to have you here
Oh,
to
yeah.
introduce this, because I think that some of the methods that you and I've talked about how you diffuse conflict, it would be really good to have parts of these wisdom circles where we have guest leaders to some degree, or, people who don't necessarily come all the time, but want to come in and talk for 10 or 15 minutes about, like, here's my top 5 things to know how to work with conflict. And having those kinds of moments, again, not really formal, but just wisdom sharing, right? And getting a sample from other community systems about how, yes, we all have the band hammer and the mute and the block, but really, if you're going to be a community leader for any length of time, that stuff eats at you. It's pretty painful to kind of have this body count of people who may or may not know that you were a decision maker about their worthiness to ever, forever, and ever be in that community. That's painful, especially cumulatively. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in people like you, Silent, of tried and true things that you just learned to do, but haven't necessarily ever described them really clearly to people of, like, this works for me and this is why I think it works for me. And so I've taught some of the things you've taught me to other people. And I want our wisdom circles to be that kind of mini incubator to do something somewhat uncomfortable. On Friday nights, we like to do half play, half serious, right? But this one would be more serious. And some, we play, right? So there'll still be silly things, but recognizing that we're leaning into discomfort on purpose ahead of time. And that's the difference here.
Yeah.
We're leaning into to
Well,
address things.
I think it's even because at first I was kind of struggling to think of this in a kind of routine context, something that you could do even once a month. Seems
Mhm.
like it seemed like a stretch, but the more you speak on it, it's kind of broadening in my mind too.
Yeah.
And I think I might have shared this as a pain point at one of the last things. Maybe you weren't at. I'm not sure if I even brought it up, but I had a guy at work randomly come up to me. Was just like, "Oh, your name's Corey, right? You don't remember me?" And I'm like, He's like, "You fired me from the thrift shop." And,
Speaking of retail, yeah,
right. So, and it was a little more complicated situation. I didn't directly fire hardly anybody, but I pretty
you
much
became the
was, so
object in his mind of who fired him.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was some level there of instantly, though, I had to kind of think like, oh well, like kind of crack a joke,
Yeah.
make sure
How do I
this dude is
respond?
cool. He's not been holding a grudge for the last however many years. Like,
can I see his hands? Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I mean, that was literally a consideration. I was checking his hands, like,
is he wearing a backpack? Like, what's going on here?
He's armed. He has 2 arms. He could have a third. I don't know.
Yeah, you want to watch that body language carefully.
Are we past the metal detectors?
Yeah. Background checks, anyone? Yeah. So thank you for that.
Sounds like he has come a little while and grown from it, but it was also a thing of
It's
like
tough.
there is still that tension there
Oh,
that
yeah.
I don't definitely feel I'm
Yeah.
well equipped to navigate that in the moment. And
Yeah.
perhaps some of these sort of tools in the belt would have made that a less
Yeah.
deer in the headlights for me.
I bet.
It was.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Woof. Somebody's like, "You fired me," and I'd be like, "I don't like
It was all
fire."
because he didn't think
you know?
sweeping the office was his job.
Oh yeah, that happens. Yeah, so thank you for getting, like, I think that wisdom means having some structure, but also having some flexibility. And so if we did have Silent or other leaders that showed up, we might just make room and say, like, hey, talk to us for 15 minutes about your top 5 things on how you handle conflict in your community. And it can be soft that way. And it can also have, someday, I hope we will attract more world builders that want to help bridge makers. And I have all kinds of workshop worlds in a different app that could be brought over here that actually, like, grow a bridge from 2 directions that has broken And every piece that you put on the bridge is a different step in repairing relationships, from the harmed in and from the harm me, or the harmer and harmed, right? So I have these educational experiences set up already. They just need to. Oh, you waving? Hello. I love that wave.
Yes.
I didn't know that they could join me here. That's okay. They're not a problem, but
That's
I was
okay.
just like,
You saw somebody joined. Yeah.
Hey, Jessica.
yeah, one of mine.
Do you want to go invite them into the circle?
I'll grab them.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
I was just going to say my particular point I was going to bring up that you talk about with like things and such when it comes to like conflict resolution. My latest strategy I've been using with people when they talk to me about certain things that they're going through is try and apply it. Like I try and explain to them to get to their like end result or what they've decided with the conflict that they're going through, but also adding in after they've made their point that like I want you to try and apply this to like when you're in like a class in school and you're doing
Right.
mathematics and
somewhere
you've gotten the
else.
answer.
Yeah.
You've gotten the answer, but the thing is, you're not going to get the full points because you don't show you're working out to that person as to how you got there. Like you need
Practice.
to explain like what led you to this point, and you thought about this, and this was the pros and cons, and essentially explain yourself rather than just going, no, we're not doing that, because you're not going to get a positive reinforcement from the person when you just give them a blanket answer. Or you break it down for them into chunks and go like, I think this person's not happy, or you feel distant from this person because like you've mentioned that they're not joining you or they're not coming to see you and they're not sticking out an invitation. But like you've explained your point to me, but in all of this you haven't shown me a path where you actually reach out in return and offer the extension of like the vine to I want to hang out with you. You make it. You can see how the discommunication or no miscommunication or like the breakdown that you both are in your own conclusions, but you actually haven't matched together to figure out which one's actually the truth.
Sort
And the person's been like, oh, I should actually invite this person.
Silent could be their own podcast, I swear. I listen to their words and I'm like, remember everything you just said. I'm so loving what Bridgemakers is, because these two are hopping. They're like, there's somebody here and they have an approach. So yay, but they're approaching now. Yay, welcome. We're just closing up here. A few more minutes, but you're welcome to sit with us.
Meeting thing.
Yeah.
Come sit.
This is a community builder meetup where we talk about what sucks and what heals in community building and where we're all at with that. So
Winter is also Winter also runs a group independently.
Well,
so
welcome,
she's also
Winter.
A group leader.
That's amazing. I also like that your description of yourself is silently staring at the moon and you are connected to silence. Seems like that's a word for you a little bit. Beautiful to have you here. So
also we need to switch back to your main.
Oh, is this PC only?
It's just that the bounding box I haven't fixed on that variant.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's cute. We're gonna wrap our circle up with an appreciation game, which is just acknowledging something about someone else in the circle that has grown us, that has softened our hearts, that has helped us remember why we build community, even when we have so many moans, groans, howls, and growls. And so we sometimes will imagine it as this like magical ball in the middle that has been listening to us all this time and taking in all our emotions, the hard stuff, the fun stuff, the silly stuff, and the losses. And we throw this around to kind of finish our circle. And so it doesn't have to be complex. It can be, I love your avatar, I love you chose this world, whatever. But it can also be soulful, just anything that touches us. Who would like to start? Grab that ball.
I'd like to start.
Okay. And Theo's on desktop, so his grabbing is going to look very stoic. All right,
but it's
Theo.
okay, because my throwing is going to make all the differences with all my emojis.
Is it for me? What? Okay, go. I'm holding
you had such a touching, like, um, when I had reflected in you, or when you had reflected for me, I felt like I was completely heard. I felt
Oh.
like I was completely amazed, noticed every single thing that it became so tender, and it became so amazing, sharing every single experience of my experiences as it inspired and incited you, but also so much of how much of this role we've partaken together as guidance to one another.
Thank you, Theo. Yeah, it's definitely Theo shared a really powerful story about setting some boundaries with somebody in his life, and I felt goosebumps at a moment. How compassionate he was responding to some pretty harsh words and pretty
And
vulnerable state. Yeah.
something else I just want to point, because this is something I've said with Jay, but I feel like there's a resounding feeling before with one another that we've definitely done this before. And it was the first moment we talked that made me come to these events. And I've been so enamored by not only just how much you as a person in your mind, how much you're able to take in and give for everybody else and yourself, and then also with how this community is shaped together and glued each other for one another. It's just amazing. It's just been amazing watching this process.
Thank you, Theo. I kind of want that thing that Silent has, that I can bury myself in the ground a little bit. That was quite a flood, and I'm honored.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I know. Will you fix my avatar so it can do that? Because I probably would have hid under the ground there. That's a very lovely thing to say.
That's actually a third-party program.
I've heard.
You just need to grab the air.
I
and
succumbed
you can do it on any
to the
avatar.
VRCX app, and I felt like that was my consension for the year. And then maybe 2026, I'll add another thing. But if I get buried more often, I might have to get it sooner. Or if I have an avatar specialist that can hold my hand and walk me through it. Thank you. And
I can actually help you with getting that installed sometime. It's pretty
look
simple.
at you, Mr. Technician.
I think they did. It used to be free for that too, but it's like $7.50 now or something.
Oh,
there's also
I missed my window.
a height adjustment part of Goko Loco that can allow you to
That's true.
dig yourself
That's true. I think there's something very magical about people grabbing the air and climbing it or descent. I think that's just kind of wicked in a good way. So
yeah,
that, please don't take Theo's appreciation of me as an expectation or a bar for anyone else. That was a long time coming. It really it was genuine, and also every time people name something lovely about bridge makers, I'm just like, okay, now there's a crack in the pavement. Where did the crack come from? And that's just my own kind of vigilance to make sure that we're honoring what isn't working also. And so it's hard for me to pause and take that appreciation in sometimes. I'm going to throw the ball now, and shall I throw it too? I'm going to throw this to Silent. Yay, you caught it.
I had an actual ball right now.
Yay. So Silent, I noticed something different today than I've ever had. For a hot second here, we had 3 people here in desktop only. And I felt my body going into an almost like I don't have oxygen response. And I was like, I don't know if I can get through these 2 hours. I've never realized before how much the mirroring of the fluidity that comes in when we have a headset on and whatever, how much that is oxygen for me, until there's this moment. And then I thought, I don't want to say that out loud because it could feel shaming or something. I know we're all taking care of ourselves and showing up the best we can. And literally right as I was starting to get kind of pulled away from the moment because I was trying to calm my body down, silent appeared silently. And I was like, full body tracking to
Spawned
compensate
it.
for 3 desktopers. I can handle this. Okay. Yeah. It was an interesting thing. I don't really even, I'm going to have to reflect on what kind of boundary that means I might have to set for myself, but it is a particular kind of labor for me to be in a place where people's bodies are pretty frozen. And I appreciate that some of you have picked up on that, and so try to come in headset whenever you can, and this is going to happen. I just don't think it ever has completely. So I was like,
Yeah.
you literally dropped out of the sky, and I was like, okay. So yes, what were you going to say, Carl?
I just want to make a quick comment that was just kind of really interesting to me, because along those lines of, like we hung out a little bit before the event started, and I was in VR, so
exactly. Yeah.
We were having,
we were having that synchronicity, right?
And then, as I drop out and I'm just a cardboard cutout over here now, it's like something being unplugged for sure.
Yeah, it was striking.
The first time I've heard is an interactive Discord call.
Oh, yeah. Carl had to drop out because it was hurting his sinuses to be in VR, and he had come back on desktop. So, and then we lost somebody over here who was in full body tracking right around the same time. So I was just like, I feel like I'm dissolving like a ghost. And I have a very hard time being on desktop and being present for these kinds of things. I can't facilitate that way so far. Maybe desperation might bring me there, but I'm reticent to try it. So that being said,
I do have to make sure that I'm like more like moving around and making sure I'm doing little movements when I'm trying to host to make sure I'm showing that like presentness.
And your avatar actually has breathing to it, which I took a little comfort in, but your avatars don't. And so there's just this part of me that was like having this disassociative response. Like I was watching myself from afar and being like, I could just not move, and it would be an image of 4 frozen people not moving, and you're just hearing voices. So here we are. You have the ball now, and you get to throw it to somebody here that you feel appreciation for.
For me, particularly the most would be Winter, but it's very like because Winter's
Winter.
Winter is mainly mine due to the case. I like Jay, even though we only talked for a little bit, or only had the trail end, because hearing what you've been going through in regards to working in retail for a long amount of time, and then wondering to achieve more and to attain to something more. Reminds me, even though I'm in the position I am now, I can relate to that, or remember the initial building blocks as to where I was then to where I am now. Remind myself I've gone through something similar. It may not exactly be the same, but we all started from somewhere, and we relied on people and their guidance. Particularly when you were talking about your, you're not too sure if you would be taken advantage of or exactly the path to reach. It reminded me, I didn't want to leave my own job because it was the only job I ever had, and I didn't know if I could take the leap. And I was thinking I could reach out to friends for guidance. So it just reminds me, that knowledge I've learned from my friends could also be passed on. No matter where I am in the path, I can still help anyone, but that's at any progress of the path underneath. So I was just it's relatable. Winter was. The other thing was because Winter is the one that humbles me directly every time with my own leadership, where, I put, blood, sweat, and tears essentially into my own group and planning things. I neglect my other attributes, like IRL, to do all this. And Winter is the one that comes and finds me. It's have you eaten? You don't have to push this hard.
Wow.
She's now what's known in my group as a event coordinator. So she does events or game nights in VR or out, or plans things, and it reduces my workload so I can focus on the important things to me. She also hits me over the head with a baseball bat when I don't go to the gym.
Oh my.
To remind me to go.
Yeah.
Which she's going to type that right now.
Speaking, did you go?
No, I had to fix a project for Unity, and now I've noticed 3 errors on her model. I'm like, I'm not going today. But no, she's one of the ones like she reminds me of like not having a candle like burn at both ends, and burning yourself out by putting too much in. So she helps me with that.
Wow, what an honoring, Winter. That I'm touched by that. Do you speak, or do you not?
Winter is medically unable.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So if
she's been a friend for like 5 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. It's interesting because your chat box is in your head. Oh, and now I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
One of the 3 things to fix today.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm honored to witness that. And being the secondary in any respect to somebody leading in a space that, this is literally like a vacuum of pixels. And we're making a lot of meaning with each other all over the world, and being somebody to back up the person who's heading that is an incredible calling and effort. And I'm glad you got honored here for a moment. Thank you for doing that for Silent. And I'm curious if you do want to type or share and participate. Is there anything here that touched your heart, and you want to appreciate anyone or anything right now? You're welcome to. You can also say pass. It's up to you. If anyone, it would probably be Rena. She's a very level-headed person. Oh. Who's always making sure that everyone's concerns are met. Oh. And something doesn't, and heard.
But she reached the chat box.
Yeah. And heard, but doesn't over push it. Yeah. That's such a subtle art, right? So I'm guessing Rena is not here, not in your pocket, but because of this acknowledgement between the two of you, you're evoking and passing on that gratitude and recognizing there's a team connected to this effort. Does that sound right? Zoom out here. Okay, I saw it. If I move back, I can read it. There we go. Yes. Okay. Yay. Well, thank you for contributing that. Celebration to Rena. This is a live streamed event, so you can find this on our YouTube channel if you ever want to tell her you shouted her out and you had a moment together. So I'm going to pick the ball back up so we can finish our circle here, and I'm going to throw it to...
I would say that Silent did throw a good appreciation.
That's true.
There
so
well.
Jay, okay, so Jay, you have the ball. You get to throw it that way or that way.
Yes. Okay, well, okay, hold on, where is the...
It's on your nose,
emoji, let me see. Here it is, here it is.
Already got it.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
so,
you got the ball. Yes, Carl, okay, hey, even though you brought up the Lord of the Rings analogy, Carl, you continued it, and when you said that, it did bring to mind something, like that Bilbo's 111th birthday wish is that, but it's a very roundabout way of saying I wish I knew you all better. Like, I don't know, less than half of you passive as well. So what he's actually was saying is, I wish I knew you all better, and like. That does bring to mind, I'm sorry, yeah.
At least half of them.
Nice. At least half of you, I wish I knew you better. The rest, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I know the quote, but I don't know exactly the wording either.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we talked, I feel like the theme mostly tonight was conflict resolution and boundary, communication. But but just something that came to mind was that I wish, I have joined several different Discord servers and VR chat communities, and I wish I had time to get to know, invest in all of those. This has just been an amazing experience. My time, especially here on the meditation group, just learning that yes, there are places where I'm allowed to actually uh be on the road to recovery with other people, like outside of a therapist's office. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that relevant?
So that feels like that was an
much.
appreciation for Carl and everyone to some degree.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, yes. My headphones are dying. I gotta go. I just beat my ear. But okay. But yes, thank you, and I'll see you. Hopefully, maybe next week. I may go to a Curious Kibble event. But yeah. Okay. But yes. Have a good evening. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. All right, Carl, you want to close this out? Yeah, he's like, mic drop.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, and I very much took that in the spirit of I think, there's a certain kind of reflection I give where it's like, if we just had, 100 of you.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, but yeah, I'm kind of, this pretty much landed exactly how I'd hoped. Other than the early possibility of making Theo go twice, because I wanted to throw it to Theo, and that would closes it up cleanly. And I think I've got a very different kind of a filter for the world than Theo does, but I really appreciate the I mean, it's like a poetry to the way you speak. There's sometimes I feel like there's a lot lost in the way I speak, where I fail to communicate ultimately the point I want to get to by trying to boil it down. And and in that same breath, though, I really respect and admire you kind of noticing, and I haven't been privy to any conversations, but from a few comments, it's clear that's, you're trying to remain grounded and still make sure you're communicating clearly with people. And I see that work, and I also just really appreciate though the where it comes from, and hope you see it as a honing of what makes you great, not like trying to fix something that you're doing wrong.
Beautiful. That's a really good way to put it.
Thank you, Carl. I think it's an accumulation of everything sometimes too, as well. It's just becomes where a lot of times, and I've been told this, I'm not very grounded a lot of the times, and I have to be so that people can follow me along. And I actually was encouraged to write more poetry by my own mentor from a video game that I play too. So I actually do write my own poetry from time to time as well.
Yeah, and maybe as a closing point on it, I often think of phrases that maybe people recoil against and try to defend them, like, it's not so bad, and even you can be just fine with your head in the clouds as long as you got your feet on the ground still. It's just it's a big stretch, so it takes a lot of effort maybe, but
Yay. Thank you all. This was a little longer than usual and very deep and lots of grounding and falling under the ground. Thank you, Silent and Winter, for coming for the end of it. Our next event is going to be on Sunday, and it is our street epistemology, where we will be debating of sorts with empathy, some kind of controversial statements. And we do this every week. If you want to check it out, you can look at our YouTube channel. And let's say goodbye to our streaming people, wherever my camera is.
Bye-bye.
Say bye-bye, streaming people.
I like saying street epistemology is co-op debate instead of PvP.
Yeah, exactly. It's less about being right and more about finding truth. And you say, bye, stream.
Finding understanding.
Awesome. Yeah, finding understanding. Let's grab a quick photo, if that's all right. We'll just scoot over by Theo. I wish we had a pretty moon
Yeah,
that's
we slide in.
winter is staring at, but yeah. Aw, such a cool. It's like a motley crew. Love it. Oh, beautiful. Okay, well, this was